big number 17, guys, big key 17. And a lot of people are going to be like, what the hell are you talking about with this one? Because the title is Be Water. That's the big key. And other people are probably like, oh, I know what you're talking about. Be water. That's the Bruce Lee quote. Be water, my friend. But for the people that don't know, be water, what is Bruce Lee saying? What does he mean? And he means be formless, be able to adapt. What does water do? It takes the shape of whatever cup it's in, bowl, whatever, right? It takes that shape. It's formless. Being able to adapt. And now I know people are thinking, all right, well, if you want us to be able to adapt and be formless to whatever, take the shape of whatever situation we're in, what do you were just preaching earlier, be clear on your principles and values and who you are. Don't switch it for anyone. What do you mean adapt? What I mean is, taking it back to another movie example, what do characters do in the movies when they're facing adversity? They adapt to the situation, right? That's exactly what I mean. Earlier I was talking about, being clear on who you are and what you want. No, that's still 100% true. I'm not changing that at all. I don't want to repeat everything I said earlier, but I mean, once you find a woman who meets your criteria, there's, of course, everything's not just perfect. That's what I'm not trying to do. In this course, I'm making everything sound great because seduction is awesome and it's great once you get good at it and practice it, and it's a fun thing to do. It's like it's an activity, like a sport or something. But once you find the woman that you want, there's still going to be bumps and rocks in the road, and you have to be willing to adapt. You're going to face adversity, even if things are going great between you two. What if you have this idea that, I'm going to take her here and things are going to go perfect, but then you take her there and it's too packed or you can't get in or whatever. It's like some guys, they let it ruin their whole mood. You see it in relationships all the time, like, oh my God, but they let it ruin everything that they were going to do and their whole night's ruined. No, be able to adapt. Say, if that thing's closed, you have another backup plan up your sleeve. You're fine, or make it seem that way. Don't let it seem like your confidence is wavered in any way. Like I said, you're on top of all the situations. What I was saying before, be able to adapt. Anything that happens, be able to adjust. And then, so it's pretty much, you're not adapting your principles and values. You're just adjusting them, or you're not adjusting those. You're just adjusting the situation so that way, they fit who you are perfectly. Whatever situation happens, you're like, all right, I have to adjust. I have to do this now. I have to do this. This is going to work best if I do this. Just be able to adapt. Take life moment by moment. It's like being in sports. They say in basketball, you have to have a short-term memory, because let's say you shoot and you miss or something happens, the defense is in a certain set or whatever. You have to be able to come back down and acknowledge that the defense might look different. There might be somebody else guarding you. You don't want to hesitate and shoot an open shot just because you missed the last one. Be able to adapt to the new situation that's happening. And you just have to keep that mentality and don't let anything get you down or too up, because anything can happen at any moment, right? That's the whole point. Anything can happen at any moment, so be able to adapt. Adjust to every situation as it comes. An example is some of her interests may be off from what yours are, but make her interests as important to you as she is to you. Now, that example right there is example of adapting kind of the conversation between you and her. I wanted to give an example of that one just because that one's a little more trickier. Like adapting to situations, that's easy to understand, right? Like I just gave an example of that. But adapting to, having the conversation with her, that's a little more difficult. So if you really found a woman that you really liked, or you're really set on her views and outlooks on life and her values and her principles, you're really convinced, you're sold on her, right? She sold you. But now you guys are talking and she's kind of saying things you're not really interested in, which is cool. You don't want to be the same exact person that you're with. It's cool when you guys can have little disagreements, poke fun at each other. They have their own hobbies, you have your own hobbies, right? And so when her interests are off from what yours are, you don't just say, nah, I'm going to shift this conversation to what I'm interested in, or even what we're both interested in. You don't want to just shift it, like shut her down. Adapt to this situation and make her interests as important to you as she is to you. That's huge. I got that point from the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, and that point just stuck with me big, because there's a lot of people say, right, when you're talking to people, show attentive listening, listen to what they're saying, don't listen just to respond, listen to listen. And but that quote right there really helped me understand, because if you could keep that in mind, if you plant that into your head, make what the person is talking about as important to you as they are to you. So if you're talking to a woman that you're highly interested in, she's kind of important to you, right? Not important in the sense of like, oh, I would do all this for you, do all these things, but she's important to you in that moment because that's who you want. So if you're making whatever she's saying, if she's really into animals and you hate animals, just make what she's saying about animals important to you as she is to you in that situation. Show attentive listening. Just be there and be able to adapt. There's going to be unexpected things that come up. Boom, just think on the fly. Make decisions and be water. Be able to take the shape of anything, right? So that's point number 17, key number 17. And we're going to head into the last one. This one was a little, actually, this one's not small at all. I think this one's actually a huge point because you have to be able to adapt, right? Because sometimes you're going to things are going to go perfectly in life. Some things happen like that, right? The day just goes perfectly. You have perfect days and nothing seems to go wrong. So this point wouldn't apply during a day like that, right? Or an interaction like that. But there's other times where it just seems like nothing's going your way, right? And if you let it beat you down, it feels like you had a horrible day, right? And sometimes you have those even when you're adapting, you have bad days. But be water. Being able to adapt helps you avoid that altogether, or at least some of it, right? And like I said, some days they're bad, and some interactions with women, you're going to have her bad. I've honestly had women throw drinks at me, but that's how I succeeded as well. I've been rejected probably more than anyone listening to this. I've literally probably been rejected more than anyone listening, but I've also succeeded a lot more as well. Or I can't say that. I'm not trying to take shots at anyone listening, but just the average person, I've been rejected a lot more, but that's because I was willing to get out and learn. And I learned that you have to be able to adapt, because that's what led me to missing out with a lot of women before, because you play this perfect picture of how the interaction, how the whole night's going to go in your head, and then it just doesn't go like that. Things come up, and then if you're not willing or ready to adapt to that situation and whatever's going on in that time, that's the seduction will be killed. The whole, the mood just ruins. Like I said, it's not about looks. Definitely, looks play a big part in seduction, but it's really the mood, energy, body language, everything. So be able to adapt everything. You can adapt your looks, really. You can adapt your clothing and your wardrobe and everything like that. But you can't adapt what you look like, really. But you can, like I said, don't worry about things you can't control. Worry about things you can control, which is situations, what you say, your body language, how you're listening, what you're doing, everything like that. All those things you have control over. All those things you can change. So focus on those. That's key number 17. And let's get into number 18.